So this tutorial we're going to set up for the next exercise, which is a digital diagramming exercise. And we're going to use the same original painting that we did the hand diagramming with, because you guys know those paintings very well now. And we're going to start to sort of redraw those diagrams, but using the RHINO tool. So this will be the first time we're using RHINO, and it'll teach you some of the skills that you will need to use for 2D drafting or possibly diagramming of any number of things. It could be a site plan, it could be a painting, it could be any number of things. So this first little piece is just going to show you how to bring the original document in. And you can think of that as an underlay. We're essentially going to bring in the picture that we are interested in studying, and then we're going to lock that picture and we're going to draw on top of it. So we're going to use it as a reference, but think of it as almost taping the original down to your drawing plane. Since we're going to be working in 2D, we really don't need all of these different views. You know, normally in RHINO we have 4 views that we can use very effectively, but for this purpose we're really drawing in one dimension, the top dimension, like a plan. So if we double click on that, now we only have the top view shown. And also I want to check when I go into RHINO, if I go to File and I go to Settings, I want to make sure that my model is set up for inches. So if I look at units and I look at the model units, it's set up for feet right now, so I want to set that up for inches. And we'll go ahead and scale it. There's nothing in the model to change, so we'll say yes. And now our model units are in inches. Okay, so here we are, we're in the top view, and depending on how we've set up our grid, each of these grid measuring lines will be a different dimension, and you can set that up differently. Let's just sort of see how big this thing is, give ourselves an idea. Okay, so that's showing as 1, and since our model is in units, this is 1 inch. Okay, well that's helpful, and we know that we want to work with our base painting at about a size where the long dimension is going to be 8 inches. So this, you know, kind of positioning, I can zoom in or zoom out of my working plane, and right now I know this will give me plenty of room for my picture. Because some of you are working in the PC platform and some of you are working in Mac, I'm going to do most of the RHINO tutorials using typed commands, because the interface for the PC realm and the Mac realm are very different. So let's just go ahead and use typed commands to get the steps that we want to achieve. So to bring in an underlay, I'm going to type the command picture, and now it's sending me out to look for the diagram that I want to bring in. And I'm going to bring in a painting from Perry Culper. And so you can see now that it's asking me to place the painting. I'm going to go ahead and sort of stay near my 0, 0 point. And if I click simply at that point, I can either drag and open up this painting to the size I want, and you'll even see that I'm starting to get a registration of how big, as I drag, how big is this object. And you can tell what we sort of checked on as inches, right? If that was 1 inch, this sort of one grid, you can see that I'm getting a readout of 1 inch. And I know that I want that to be about 8 inches. So I'm going to go kind of in that area, and I'm going to go ahead and type in 8. Again, because my model is in inches, it assumes that I want 8 inches. So if I type in the 8 and return and go ahead and click on that, now you can see that it defaulted to create the painting at 8 inches. So I could have done the same steps and then scaled this object when I decided to work with it, or I can go ahead and set it to scale when I'm bringing it in. There's lots of different ways to do that. You'll also notice that, okay, so now I have this thing sitting on my desktop. I can click on it, which makes it active, and I can move it. If I don't want to do that, my Command Z is always a sort of step back command. But I have it the size that I want. You'll see also that it's got this kind of registration symbol in the middle that's called the gumball. And the gumball allows you to do different things. It allows you to move. So you'll see that you have a green arrow if I want to move in one direction. I'll back up. Or a red arrow if I want to move in the other direction. And if I was working in 3D, I'd have 3 arrows. It also has scaling features. So the arrow is for moving. If I click on this square, it's going to give me the option to type in a scale factor. So if I put in 2, it only scales it in that one direction. You can see that my painting just got very distorted. And if I needed it to scale evenly in two directions, one option I would have would be to type 2 both ways, and now I'm back to scale. But maybe that's not the size I want. I want that 8-inch drawing, so I'm going to do a 0.5, and I'm going to do the same for this other size. So now I'm back to my 8-inch painting, and that's really what I want. The other feature of the gumball, and you will use this all the time, is this blue radius. And so if I click on the radius, it's going to allow me to rotate. And you can see I can type in the number of degrees that I want to rotate, and the arrow is showing me which way it's going to rotate. So right now, if I type in 90, it's going to be upside down. So I'm going to type in -90. I've already done that. And then if I just hit return, it will rotate my painting. So that's the orientation that I want. I also am just going to sort of pop it back to this basic location. You can see it's not snapping. That's because I have to choose things like grid snap if I want it to snap to the grid. All right, so there's my painting in the orientation that I want. And again, if I wanted to know how big it was, I can actually measure it. So there's my 8-inch painting. Okay, so that's perfect. So that's where we're going to start. Go ahead and bring in your paintings and set them up to that scale so that the long dimension is 8 inches, whether that's horizontal or vertical. I want you to have the orientation of the painting the way you've been analyzing it.